I got to ask you about Carlton, the character Carlton, because
My
I
heart.
I
My
don't
heart.
know if there's anybody on the show that's more polarizing than him. Okay. He is doing a phenomenal job. Ali, is that his
That's
friend?
right. Ali,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, and this cat is doing an amazing job. But I don't know if I was ready for for the new Carlton, for how Carlton was going to be. So people reminded me that on the on the Fresh Prince, that Carlton for the first few episodes or whatever, wasn't very likable. But I don't remember Carlton as not being likable. I remember him being goofy. I remember him being a lot of things. But I know this dude is doing such a great job because I literally want to strangle him in almost every scene. I mean, just a
Don't worry, it'll
phenomenally.
come. It'll make
uh,
an arc.
I know it's gonna
It's
make
gonna,
an art because
it's
it
gonna
has
get
to,
there.
because you can't have Carlton be
This unlikable. I know.
this
I know.
unlikable right now. So I'm curious, when you finally were able to read this full entire script, or at least maybe the pilot, just to see where this was going. What were some of your just natural reactions to who these characters were going to be in Bel Air?
I mean, I for some reason, I'm like, I feel like tea leaves. Like, somebody took tea leaves and they're like, let me tell you the truth of this character in the tea leaves. And you're like, that's
Mm.
who that person is. And then you're like, oh, yeah, that might be right. I mean, the way they updated Jeffrey
that
feels,
that was good. That's why, like, oh, Jeffrey in them streets. Okay.
I mean, he's in those streets. He's also not subservient to Uncle
Right.
Phil. He also isn't just like your stereotypical idea of what it is to be British. He's got that British island thing happening, which we're just like, it just feels so right. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I was wrong. Next, who's next? And you're like, Hillary. Well, of course, she had influence of night. Duh. Okay, that makes sense. Next. And then you look at Adrian's character as Uncle Phil. At first, I was, I've worked with Adrian a couple of times before, friends with him for a while, and I was like, this is not how you cast this role. And then he starts speaking. You're like, oh, okay, I was wrong. That's the warmth we needed. Okay, next. And then you get to Akira and her being Ashley, who's just so she's so precocious. She's like a walking signed petition of things, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's about right if you want to look at that character like that. And then you get to Carlton and you're like, listen, guys, let's sit down and talk. But when I saw Carlton's character, I thought, ooh, someone is here to tell the whole truth about that character. And to me, it's also a way to really say, hey, us in the 90s, were we kind to Carlton? We're lucky Carlton did not kill himself. It reminds me of like Sterling Brown, his portrayal of Christopher. What's his name? He was part of the O.J. Simpson trial, but he was
Oh,
on
correct. Yes, Christopher Darden.
Darden,
Yep.
Christopher Darden.
Hmm.
And same thing. We were not kind to Christopher Darden, and that was a whole human being who saw all sorts of different things on his side of the table. And so I thought Carlton, of course, tragedy and comedy live side by side. I used to be a stand-up comedian, and it's like the things that are the funniest are the things that are the most tragic. And of course, the 90s version of a black little boy who grew up in an all-white neighborhood, who probably his whole life was told he's smart to be black, he's attractive even though he's black. Are you sure you're black? You don't seem like you're black. You get them type of microaggressions enough, you start to be like, let me make sure I am just the antithesis of anything that is from the culture. Like, and then what does that mean to an inside of someone? That means there must be some self hate, right? That's like the beginning of some mental health issues. And that is commonplace. And I mean, my whole life in like middle school, oh my God, kids treated me like I was Carlton all day long, because I form complete sentences. I am trying to be white. So I love that the show tries to see both sides of it. It's like, really, what is black to you? What is white to you? And then realize Carlton has just been trying to follow the rules that were given to him the best way he knew how. And now he sees like, "Oh, maybe I didn't have to." You know what I'm saying? Like you could write a book on Carlton. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful character. And what I love about Ali, nobody's got a better, stronger black back and neck than Ali Sheridan. Because Showtime will show up on Twitter and be like, y'all gonna disrespect me. Use a high definition picture. Equal pop. You know, because he really wanted that role. And the way he talks about, I mean, he gets very deep into, we've had very deep
Mm.
conversations about what that role really means and what it meant in the 90s for white people to have that type of character that had no masculinity, that had no backbone. Like that role served a purpose. But if you move that into the drama realm, all of a sudden you got to start indicting people for things. And that makes everybody get a little uncomfortable. So I'm here for that uncomfortable conversation. Mhm.
Well, that's what I think that's how you know it's a great show, is that it's creating a lot of dialogue about race, about class, about what it means to Black people to quote unquote make it, and how making it isn't always exactly what we thought was making it. And so I love that
Yeah.
it can generate that level of conversation. Although I will say, as someone again who grew up watching it, it is kind of uncomfortable to hear my friends talk about how fine Uncle Phil is now. Y'all got
I
Uncle
know.
Phil stepping. Like it's like all of this. Like, wait, what?
I mean, and it's just, I know, when Adrian comes on set, Adrian in real life is nothing like Uncle Phil. You know, he's like Canadian. He's got a little bit of a Canadian accent, but when he's Uncle Phil, it feels like dark skinned Obama or something. You're just like, oh, oh. And I told him, I was like, America's gonna be all up in their feelings. The women's gonna be like, I'm
Yeah,
here for
buddy.
this Uncle Phil. I also love that like Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv get to be sexy and get to have some sensuality, and they're just not these like puppets of just patriarchy and matriarch. It's like, no, he gonna go step tonight and people gonna come say hello to Aunt Viv later. Like these are real just Black people in these streets. But no, yeah, Uncle Phil, I know
Yeah,
Adrian,
that's a
he is
different.
not ugly, people.
Yeah, people were not ready for like sexy Uncle Phil.
Totally. I No one was more surprised than me when we did our chemistry test and he popped up on the Zoom for a chemistry thing. And I was like, who they got is Uncle Phil? And I was like, yeah, this ain't it, guys. I'm gonna be like, this is too sad. This ain't Adrian. And then as soon as he started speaking, it's like I forgot how to act because I was like, don't be using that voice on me, Phil. Like, what are you?